Fear of aging is real, and it can happen to anybody, whether you're 25, 50, 70. I had my first crisis, my age crisis, midlife crisis at 25. And I think it was because I thought, wow, I have reached 1/4 of a century. Of course, now that I'm almost 55, I feel, wow, I'm past the half a century mark and I'm not even worried about it. And how could I feel so bad when I was 25? So this means that people can have this kind of crisis at any age. In fact, I see it quite often on Facebook when younger people are like, oh my goodness, I'm turning 25. For a split second, I feel, oh wow, how could you be feeling that? And then I remember that I felt that way when I was 25. And thankfully, again, it was my only age crisis. I think the reason was because, well, for the first 24 years of my life, I identified, well, first as a child, a teen, a young adult, an adult, but I felt young. I always felt everybody referred to me as a young person. It was my first brush with some kind of concept of what it meant to be growing older. My next big birthday would be 30, and then so on and so forth. I'm going to share the ways that I deal with fear of aging, because even though all my channels, all my books, all my social media efforts are all about embracing aging, it doesn't mean that at some point I'm not scared of it just like everybody else. But there are things I do to counteract this feeling, this being scared, and I'm going to share with you 4 things that I do, and I hope that they help you deal with your own fear of aging. If you have any suggestion, I would definitely welcome them in the comments section. When we fear aging, I feel that, in my case, I feel getting sick, and getting sick as a result of getting older. The way that I deal with this is getting checkups, like all the checkups I need. I know that that will not prevent me from having a certain illness if it is up to the gods that I get that illness, but at least it helps me feel somewhat in control of my health. This means that if I am scheduled for a yearly mammogram, which I have been from a very young age because of certain things that have happened with my breast since I was very young, well, I go to those appointments. I have to go to get an ultrasound and a mammogram every 6 months. Now, some women are against having mammograms. They prefer to do thermography or other things. It's up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you think you need to do, I would very much encourage you to at least have a handle on your health, know where you stand. At 50, I had my first colonoscopy, and I'm scheduled to have one after I turn 55, which is going to happen later this year. I must say that I felt empowered after I had my colonoscopy, and I knew that I had polyps, they had been removed, and I was good to go for at least another 5 years. So that kind of gives me peace of mind. If I have a higher predisposition towards certain illnesses than other people, I need to know what I can do to improve my health given my family history, my current life history, and my daily habits. The second thing that seems a little bit scary about aging is losing your physical abilities. I have been active from a very, very young age. As I explained in a different video, I suffered from mental illness. I've had severe clinical depression and anxiety most of my life. And the way I dealt with it partly was with exercise. From a very young age, I was a runner. I've practiced dancing, swimming. I've ran half marathons. And for the past 3 years, it has been practically daily yoga, different forms of yoga. If you follow me on my Instagram account, Lorraine C. Laddish, you'll see that I post a variety of my yoga practice. And this year, which is 2018, is the year that I want to start my certification as a yoga instructor. This morning, when I was in my yoga class, I peeked around. I don't usually do this because I like to focus inwards when I'm practicing yoga, but I looked around to see what other people were doing in the class. It always shocks me when I see that people who are in their 20s can hardly fold over or touch their toes or move or stand up or get into certain positions. And I'm not talking about crazy yoga poses. I'm talking about simply getting off of the floor without using your hands, for example. I'm 55, and next to those, almost 55, I keep adding a year to my age. I guess that's good. So I feel a little younger. That's another trick. When I'm in class, I feel empowered and strong, and it's a way for me to feel, not that I'm going to be young forever, because that would be silly to think that, but it gives me a sense of power, of empowerment, of being strong. This gives me the possibility of living my best life at my current age, whatever that happens to be. Exercise for me, whatever exercise you choose, it could be walking, it could be walking the dog, it could be dancing, it could be lifting weights, it could be bike riding at home, stationary bike riding. It's your choice. But honestly, I don't think I would feel as good as I do at almost 55 if I hadn't exercised. My dad is turning 80 this year, and if you saw him, you would not think he's 80. That's considering he had a quadruple bypass 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and he's a very fit person. His problem was that he has atherosclerosis, which has nothing to do with exercise and being fit, but the doctor did tell him that had he not been fit, the outcome of his surgery would have been not very good. The way that I deal with that fear of losing my physical capabilities is exercising almost every single day. I say almost because there are days, of course, that I skip my routine here and there. Life happens. I think we feel older when we feel defeated, and that could happen at any time in life. There is no timeline for that. It could happen in your 30s, in your 40s, 50s, etc. Not having a sense of purpose, I think, is lethal for your vibrancy and your joie de vivre. Women who have devoted their lives to their kids or to a partner, to being the person who was managing the home, the family, when the kids leave, then she loses her sense of purpose and needs to redefine herself in order to feel youthful, vibrant, and alive. So having a life purpose, that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, doesn't have to be grand. For me, it's being a communicator, and I discovered this quite early on in life. I think by 30, when my first book on my eating disorder was published, I already felt I had a sense of purpose. I realized I wanted to be a communicator. It came naturally to me. I could make a living doing it, and that's my passion. That happens to be my particular passion. It doesn't mean that there are not other ways that I could be living my life. It just means that I discovered what makes me tick. It is something that is independent from being, for example, a mom, being a wife, even being a woman. If you don't know what your sense of purpose is, I encourage you to figure out what it is that you would do for free. What is it that gets you up in the morning and changes your day around? I'm not saying you should do it for free, but you would do it for free. Figure out what it is at this stage in your life that would make you tick. And it doesn't have to be something that brings in a lot of money. I've discovered that having a life aligned with who I am and what I stand for is no substitute to making a lot of money doing something that I would absolutely despise. I think we all, to a greater or lesser degree, fear death, our own and that of other people. My grandmother is 101 and she does not want to die. She's not ready to go, and I'm not ready for her to go. The way that I deal with that fear, which I've had, it's actually been stronger when I was younger, that fear of death. Now I fear more for losing my kids or my husband or my loved ones than my own death. But even that, the fear of one's own death, I think, can be addressed with some kind of faith. I'm not going to tell you what to believe in, and I'm not even going to tell you what I believe in, but it is a sense of faith, of spirituality, of being connected to something that is bigger than you, that can give you the tools and the readiness to address that fear of death, no matter whether you're 30, 50, 80, 90, or like my grandmother, 101. To recap, fear of losing one's health, well, do the checkups, be on top of your health, eat well, exercise, etc. Fear of having aches and pains, and exercising is what has always kept me on track in that sense. Having a sense of purpose, and lastly, a spiritual connection, so that no matter what your age, you always feel aligned with who you really are. If you would like to read some of the things that I'm talking about, you can do so in my book, which you can find on Amazon, Reach: From Single Mom on Welfare to Digital Entrepreneur. You can get it on Kindle, and you can also get it in paperback. It's a really, really small book. I have others, but this is like the smallest book I've ever written, just because I didn't want it to have absolutely any fluff. And it does talk you through not only my story of the year that I kind of lost everything in the Great Recession in the United States, but also how I rebuilt myself. And I was 45 when that happened. If I was able to do it in midlife and rebuild myself, so can you. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Browse my other videos and see what else I'm doing. If you like what you see, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel.